Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the first in a series of webinars designed to spark conversations about a variety of residential and commercial zoning topics. This webinar series is a part of the Code Create Vienna, the process of updating the town's zoning and subdivision code. Bear with me, and please bear with us. This is our first webinar, so there may be some hiccups. We're doing our best, and we appreciate your patience with us. My name is Kelly O'Brien. I am the Principal Planner for the Department of Planning and Zoning, and I am joined today by the Director of Planning and Zoning, Cindy Petcack, and Deputy Director, Mike D'Orazio. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge our wonderful consulting team led by Calfee Zoning, who are helping the town with the code update. Director Petcack will be giving the presentation today, and I will be moderating the question and answer portion at the end. You are welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A feature at the bottom. However, all questions will be held until the end of the presentation. If you are watching this recording after this presentation has happened, please email your questions to codecreate@viennava.gov, and that email will be available as the last slide at the end of this presentation as well. We will be happy to respond to any questions, and we'll be collating and collecting all of your thoughts to share with Planning Commission and Town Council. So thank you for coming today and for watching our webinar. With that, I will turn it over to Director Petcack to tell us why update the town code now. So Director Petcack, take it away.
Thank you, Kelly. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. All right, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Cindy Petcack. I'm the Director of Planning and Zoning with the town of Vienna. And thank you for joining us for our first of many lunch and learns. So as we're doing this, we're kicking off this project to update our zoning code, what we're calling Code Create Vienna, we thought it would be helpful to provide an opportunity for people to learn a little bit about zoning and the zoning code, and then provide opportunities for people to learn about the updates to the code as they happen. So this is our first, as Kelly said, first of many. We'll be doing these twice a month throughout the duration of this process. So let's start with, what is zoning? So if you're not like Kelly, Mike, and I, where we have a degree in planning and work with this every day, you may not understand what zoning is. So zoning is the process of classifying land into areas or districts, or what we call zones. It really is about regulating the land in terms of different uses, be it a residential use or a commercial use. It regulates what can be built on a property, how large it can be, how it's used, what part of the land can be used, or what has to be remained open. I'm going to pull up here the zoning map for the town of Vienna. So say you live in a house on Cottage Street, which is zoned RS10. RS10 means it is a residential zone district with a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, as opposed to RS16, which is a minimum lot size of 16,000 square feet. So that's the land area, the minimum land area you need to have a house in an area zoned RS10. And then there's limits on the size of that house. So it provides predictability. So if you buy a house on Cottage Street that's zoned RS10, all the land, the property around you is zoned RS10, you know that what could be built next door to you is another single family house, and that house cannot be bigger than 2.5 stories or 35 feet. So I think zoning helps. If you understand zoning and you understand the zoning map, you know what can be built and where. So in looking at the zoning map, if you look at the areas along Maple Avenue that are all purple and pink and fuchsia, those are commercial zones. So you'll see, looking at the town, which is 4.4 square miles, majority of land in town is zoned for residential, for single family residential. So how does zoning relate to the comprehensive plan? Maybe you've heard of the comprehensive plan. This is a cover of our current comprehensive plan, or what we call the comp plan. It is just that. It's a planning document. It is the town's long-range plan for the community, and it is the community's vision. There are requirements for citizen input in the development of the comprehensive plan. There are recommendations in the plan related to not only land use and zoning, but other areas such as transportation, environment, sustainability, things like that. But I think what's important to note for this effort is that you can't attain the goals, the development goals in the comprehensive plan if you don't update your zoning and subdivision ordinances. And so I think this side by side is really helpful to understand how the two work together and the differences between them. So again, comprehensive plan, long-range planning document, looking out typically 20 to 25 years, whereas the zoning ordinance is the law. It's regulatory. It says what you can and can't do with your property. Both are provided for in the Virginia State Code. I've included those code section references right here for you. The state code requires that the Planning Commission is responsible for preparing the comprehensive plan with input. There are requirements for public hearings, and then a recommendation to the council, who then adopts it. And there's also a requirement in the state code that the Planning Commission must review the comprehensive plan at least once every 5 years and determine if an update is needed. That last occurred in town in 2016. So next year in 2021, the Planning Commission again will be reviewing our comp plan and determining if there are updates needed. So interestingly enough, there is no requirement for zoning to be reviewed and updated every 5 or 10 years or at any point. So our current code was formally adopted in 1969. And many of the provisions are actually carryovers from the 1956 zoning code. So there are some things haven't changed since the 50s. We were then and we are now predominantly a community of single family homes. We are a residential community. What has changed is our commercial areas. The zoning that was put in place in the 60s was really about kind of more of an auto-oriented commercial area. And as you'll see when we get to the land use goals in the comprehensive plan, the desire is now for a more walkable and bikeable commercial area, someplace you can go walk to from your house with your family and have a bite to eat and get together with friends. Any zoning change, and there are two types of zoning amendments. There are text amendments, which are changes to the code, and that's the process that we're starting right now, is changing the text. And then there are map amendments. Some of the text may result in changing the map in terms of the potentially the names of our zone districts. So if there are changes to the commercial zones, to right now, if we go back to our zoning map, the commercial zones along Maple Avenue are a mix of C1, C1A, and C2. And the difference in those commercial zones are really in terms of the types of uses that are allowed. Like the C2 zone is the only commercial zone that allows for auto-oriented uses like gas stations and automotive service stations. So potentially, going through this process, we may develop a new zone district for just our downtown. And if we do that, that would result, that text change would result in a map amendment, a change to this map. But I don't know. We don't know. We're just starting the process. So as we get through the process, we'll know more. And really, it's dependent upon what the community desires, and at the end of the day, what the Planning Commission and ultimately the Town Council adopts. And that is the other piece. When you are, when the council is considering a map amendment to the zoning map or an amendment to the zoning code, they look at what's, especially for a map amendment, what's in place right now, what is the existing use, the character of the property. But a huge part of reviewing and ultimately deciding on a map amendment is what's in the comprehensive plan. And just like with the comprehensive plan, the planning commission makes a recommendation and the council approves it. And it's a public hearing, it is a public process, the community can provide comments on that. So in our current comprehensive plan, in the implementation chapter, talk about really the primary way of implementing the comprehensive plan is through zoning. And the recommendation was to amend not only the zoning ordinance, but also the subdivision ordinance. So earlier this year, the town issued a request for proposals to hire a consultant to undertake this effort. And the reason why we went outside of staff to do this work is that it is a huge undertaking. As you'll see as we kind of get into what the code looks like right now, 30 some articles in our zoning code, hundreds of pages. So just even to kind of reorganize it is kind of a big effort, and it is assisted by having someone come in who just does this for a living, who does zoning updates. So that's why the town issued the request for proposals, and really based on 4 tenets, the 4 major tenets of this project. We want to clarify, simplify, reorganize, and update our subdivision and zoning ordinances. Clarify and simplify are pretty straightforward. We're talking about clarifying and simplifying the language that is used. You'll see if you look at our zoning code, it's very text heavy. It's written by land use attorneys for land use attorneys. So if you don't look at zoning codes every day, and as a homeowner you want to build a shed, and you go to the zoning code to see are there requirements for how big my shed can be and where it can be located on my property, you may have a difficult time in finding that information because it's not easy to find for someone who doesn't use the zoning code. So having language that's simple sentences, tables and charts and illustrations so that you understand what is required and why. The code is also, because it is over 50, in some cases 60 years old, depending on the provision, it didn't anticipate kind of the changes that have happened in the world. So where the code is silent, whether it doesn't provide any guidance, there have been determinations made by previous and current zoning administrators. We have them in our office, but they're not available to the public. So unless you ask the question, you may not know what that determination is. So that needs to be reviewed and put into the code, or what we would say codified. And then there are provisions that are just not there at all. So changes that have been made by the state that are now in the state code and we don't even reference in our code, we need to include those. And then, like I said, simplify, just language, everything so that it's easy to understand. But what I want to kind of spend the rest of my time talking about is the other 2 tenets of this project, the reorganization and the update. So when you think about reorganizing, I think of who is the best person, who's like the go-to person to hire if you want to reorganize your closet or a room in your house. You hire someone like Marie Kondo, or you hire Marie Kondo. So what does Marie do when you hire her? She doesn't come in, if you say, Marie, help me organize my clothes closet. Marie doesn't come in with a whole new wardrobe for you. Here you go, Cindy, here's your new closet. She comes in and she takes everything in your closet and she puts it in a big pile, and she sits down with you and you go through every article, every piece of clothing, everything you have in your closet, and determine, does it spark joy? And that's what this process is about. We're going to go through all of our regulations, all the provisions in the zoning ordinance, and say, do they spark joy? Do they achieve the vision as laid out in our comprehensive plan for the town? If they don't, then we don't need them, and we can get rid of them. Or if they do, we keep them. As I said, what hasn't changed for the town since the 50s is that we are predominantly a community of single-family homes, and so that is going to continue. So probably not going to be a lot of changes to that area, but our commercial zones we know we want to focus on. So the Marie Kondo way is about just going through each piece, going through each provision, putting it in a better place, organized. So all the zone districts, which right now are kind of laid out in various articles will be all put together in one nice drawer. You know how she folds a little t-shirt so they all stand up nicely. All of our zone districts will stand up nicely and all be put together. So that's the Marie Kondo way when it comes to reorganization. And I always think it's better to kind of see what that looks like. So this is side by side. On the left is a word cloud showing all the various articles. There are 29 articles and some sub articles, so a total of 34. And the word cloud on the right is just an example from another jurisdiction. It's not necessarily the articles, the number of articles, or even the type of articles we're going to have in our code, but it's just an example. Right now there are separate articles for each zone district. The Marie Kondo way, we organize. We have all of our zones or all of our t-shirts in one drawer, and here they're in this example in Article 2 zoning districts. So it's just easier for someone who's not familiar with the code to find what they're looking for. Another example, dimensional standards. Dimensional standards are things such as, you know, how I talked about the lot size, the minimum lot size, how tall a building can be, how far your building has to be set back from the front yard or from the side yard. Right now, our current code on the left, it's all text. So you got to read through it, and because it's the type of zoning code it is, it's a modified cumulative zoning code, which means that there'll be provisions laid out in one district, like the RS16, and then all the other residential zone districts will reference back. So you got to flip through different pages to find information. The example, and again, it's just an example on the right, is a table. So all for this particular example, it's a residential traditional zone district. All the dimensional standards are shown in that table. Really easy to find and understand. Uses. So again, on the left are uses. It's all narrative in text form. The other thing with the uses that are permitted, especially on the commercial zones, they don't reflect modern uses. So in addition to reorganizing, we're going to be updating as well. So you'll see the example on the right is a big use table, and it has by general categories different types of uses. So like residential breaks it out, single family attached versus single family detached, and then it shows the P is showing where those uses are permitted in the various zone districts. So this is really helpful on the business side for like the commercial zone. So say you have a new business that wants to start up in Northern Virginia. And so they're doing research of Vienna and Herndon and Fairfax County and Tysons and seeing where, you know, where they want to locate. And in doing their research, they pull up our zoning code and say this particular business is a, since we're in COVID and everybody wants to dine outside, it's a Bavarian beer garden. And so they're like, where can I open my Bavarian beer garden? So they come to the town of Vienna's zoning code, and we don't have a use table. We don't have all our uses in one section. So they're looking around, they're looking in our commercial zones. They don't see beer garden listed as a use. They go to the definitions, it's not listed there. So they're not sure, maybe it would be considered a restaurant. They don't know. But in the meantime, they're also looking at Herndon, they're looking at Tysons, and both of those jurisdictions provide for beer gardens. It's defined in their code. They find some land, they open a beer garden, you know, down the street in Tysons, you know, in a couple months they're selling, you know, they've got their Wiener Schnitzel and an Oompa and that is a beer garden that we could have had here, but unfortunately, you know, they couldn't figure out the code. Hopefully they would have called us and we would have talked to them and said, yes, we would consider that a restaurant. But if a business is just doing their research, maybe they're not going to make that call. Maybe they're just trying to go the simplest route, and the simplest route is to know that that's a permitted use and that's someplace that they want to build. So again, it's helpful for residents here to understand and be able to find things in the code, but it's also helpful from an economic development standpoint for new businesses that want to come in. Again, reorganizing. I talked a little bit before about rezonings or map amendments. That process is laid out in our code. Again, it's all text. But what we'd like to have in the new code is a summary table, so that whatever you want to do, if it's apply, you know, to rezone a property, or maybe you want your business that wants to put in a new sign, you look at this, all right, sign permits, you see who reviews them, who approves them, and there's more information on the process. All of that's laid out. Obviously, we're here, staff's here, so if you have a question, you can call and contact staff. But a lot of times people just want to read it on their own and understand what's before them. So on the update, I've talked a little bit about updating uses, modern uses, complying with any changes that have been made by the state. There have been some recent Supreme Court decision. In 2015, there was a case that regarding temporary signs, and so we know that we need to, our temporary sign provisions right now are not constitutional based on the Supreme Court decision. We are actually looking at amending that in the next few months, but then including that information in a holistic comprehensive review of our sign code. But there's other things like we don't have lighting standards for our commercial zone, so we'd like to add some lighting standards. You know, there's things that we didn't think about in the 50s and 60s when the zoning code was put in place that we are concerned about now. So we want to make sure that the code includes those things, and really most importantly, reflects and implements the vision, the goals, the recommendations in the comprehensive plan. So specific to that, these are the land use goals in the comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission and Council and kind of tweaked one of those, the third bullet related to housing. The comprehensive plan goal says encourage housing for residents of all age groups, and that has been revised to encourage a range of housing options for a diverse population. But these are the goals that are really driving this effort, this project. And again, as I pointed out, you know, what hasn't changed since the 50s, that this would be the sixth bullet, ensure that Vienna retains its unique single-family residential character and quality of life is an important goal. But creating a more walkable and bikeable Vienna, encouraging a vibrant central business district. These are all related to kind of having places to go to, walk to, bike to along Maple Avenue and Church Street. So where are we in the process? We're in the beginning. The council awarded the contract to Calfee, the team led by Calfee Zoning. The beginning of the slide, Kelly showed the team members. So it's Calfee Zoning is going to be leading the technical aspects of this project. Yard & Company is leading assisting us in leading the engagement efforts and doing some urban design work. And then we have a transportation consultant, Nelson Nygaard, will be helping us look at any updates we want to make to our parking standards and things of that nature. And then Venable is, there are local land use attorneys out of Tyson's that'll be making sure that everything we do is copacetic with what's allowed in Virginia. So we formally kicked off this project last month with a joint work session with the Council and Planning Commission. And based on the input that the consultant received at that work session, they're hard at work. And we are hoping they'll have some deliverables for us in early December that the Council and Planning Commission will be able to review. And in the meantime, we're going to be developing some basic questions to get feedback from the community to kind of kick off this process and hear from you in terms of, you know, what do you like about Vienna? What would you like to change? And, you know, what should remain the same? So we'll be working with the consultants to develop those surveys, those questions, and then coming to you. Hopefully we'll have a booth set up at the farmers market. There's going to be some events at our shopping areas over the next couple months that the Economic Development Manager, Natalie Monkow, is leading Shop and Stroll. So we'll probably have a booth there and kind of coming to you with, you know, to get your feedback as we start this process. It is anticipated to be about a 1.5-year long process. And we're hoping, you know, by the end of next year, we'll have updated and reorganized subdivision and zoning ordinances that would then go through a formal review process, which requires public hearings by the Planning Commission and Council before they can approve it. So that's everything we wanted to cover here in our first Lunch and Learn. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly for any questions that you posted to us. And again, thank you for your time. Thanks for zooming in and joining us.
Great. Thank you, Director Pekak. If you could click stop sharing your screen. We'll just keep it open to just us.
All right, I will try to do that. I don't know how to do that. Oops.
Let me see if I can.
Oh, there it is.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so first question. Heard you mention that the video will be available for later viewing. Is it possible to have the slides available as well? And yes, actually, that's an excellent question and something. So we have a special project website that we will be live as soon as this is over. We want to make sure that everything's on. Excuse me. So the slides that we've been presenting today specifically and separately will be available as a PDF, so you can look through those. Excuse me. A link to the video of the presentation today. And also I was reading that it's good to have just the audio, because I know in Zoom it can export just the audio. So if someone just wanted to hear what was said today while looking for slides on their own. So we will have all of that available on the website, which we will share that website address at the end of our presentation today. We have a thank you for including businesses, and we are very happy that the businesses came on today, and we look forward to working with all members of our community. If you have questions, if you want us to come to a meeting you're having, we're open to whatever avenues of engagement that we can do. And you may have noticed in the graphic for the code create that CO and create were boldened. It's very important to us that this whole process is a co-creation, that everyone feels included. And Director Pekak, do you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, definitely. So we just finalized the branding this week, and Kelly and Mike have been working hard at preparing for this first lunch and learn, but also getting the website up. And I think kind of before we close out, we're going to show you the website, and Kelly's going to provide the website address. And we have created a special email. So if you have questions, you can email. And the reason we want everything kind of documented in emails is that we know we can kind of keep track of all that, have a matrix of all the questions that were being asked, and make sure that we are addressing all of your questions throughout this process. But yeah, this process is all about co-creation. So having everybody involved, and that's why we want to start out with the basics, what is zoning? So, hopefully, I hope for 100% community awareness of this project. I hope that, a year from now, you could stop someone on the street and say code create and be like, oh yeah, that's the town's doing their zoning update. Most people don't have any interaction with the zoning code, but the goal is that if you do, it's easy for you to understand. Like I said, we are here to use our professional backgrounds and experience in helping the town achieve its vision, and zoning is the major implementation tool for doing that. So we want to make sure we get it right, and hearing from the community, making sure you're involved in this process is really important to doing that.
Excellent. I often hear the term by right zoning. What does that mean?
So in the zoning code, it means doing what's permitted. Remember I was showing you the example of the permitted, the table and the little P's in the table, those are permitted uses. So if you live in a house, the permitted use for the RS, for any of the residential zone districts, RS10, RS12.5, or RS16, is a single family detached housing unit. So that's a by right use. Replacing a house with another house would be a by right use. Owning a piece of a commercial property that's zoned C1 and putting in a restaurant is a permitted use in the C1 zone district. So that's what it means. It means it's permitted by right. The zoning permits it by right.
Another question, will residents be able to make ordinance changes?
So again, early in the presentation talked about the process for amendments, zoning amendments, be it map or text amendments. The council approves those. So if there is, the council directs the planning commission for text amendments formally. So I mentioned the Supreme Court decision on temporary signs. So the town council has has referred this matter to the planning commission to research it, propose an ordinance or a text change for temporary signs. They will formally have a public hearing on it. It has to be advertised, and then they make a recommendation to the council, but only the council can approve amendments to the zoning code.
Given our goals of range of housing options for diverse population and retain single-family residential character, how can we go about evaluating requests for second full kitchens in our in-law apartments for our elderly parents?
Well, that's something we can talk about. Accessory dwelling units is something we can talk about in this process, and other jurisdictions, nearby jurisdictions, allow accessory dwelling units. Sometimes there are limits on the size of those units, but it's something we can talk about through this process.
Okay. Should we submit documents requesting certain things be included or excluded?
Sure. I mean, I think it would be, and Kelly, if you want to talk to this in the context of, so right now the consultant, they did a review of our existing ordinances, chapter 17, which is subdivision, chapter 18, which is zoning, and kind of looking at our current ordinances based on what's in our comprehensive plan, what are our goals and our vision for the town, and kind of identified where we're meeting those goals or where we're not meeting those goals. So they're starting to kind of draft up an outline of what they think the code could look like, the reorganization I was talking about, and then putting some meat on the bones in terms of some of those standards. So as they draft things up, we'll review those first with the planning commission and council, and then it'll go out to the community for input. So I think a lot of times it's, if you have a thought or you have ideas, great, you can provide those to us now. We'll keep that in mind as we get to that section of the code. More information is helpful as we're undertaking this process.
I'm not going to a question, but we had a comment about that they received the notice for this presentation via Instagram. I wanted to make sure that we continue to use this as a mode of communication. So I want to give a shout out to our amazing public information staff, Lynn Cohen, and for helping us make sure that we get this out in every avenue that we have. So you'll be seeing updates about this in the Vienna Voice. We have an article coming up in the November newsletter. It's on our Facebook. It's on Instagram. So we are making sure all of the business newsletters, anything that you've signed up for, you will probably hear about us. That is our goal. We want to have as far reach as possible. So yes, that is our plan, to continue using every mode of communication that we have available to us. Okay. What do you see as the biggest challenge in redrafting our zoning and subdivision ordinance?
Well, I think one of the reasons we wanted to hire a consultant is just, it's a huge effort. So I'm looking forward to hearing the consultant's ideas and how we can better organize it in terms of, who our audience is and, who uses the code, and making it easier for people to, when you do use it. Like I said, if you're a homeowner, you're probably not using the code very often, but when you do, it should be easy to find information. So I think that, and the fact that we haven't updated in 50, 60 years, we know there's some uses that we want to address, just making sure, because we've been doing the comp plan every 5 years and we haven't updated the zoning, just making sure that we are using zoning to implement our vision for the town. And I think that really is mostly focused on the commercial areas.
Does the town or the comprehensive plan have an opinion yet on accessory dwelling units?
Actually, I'm gonna ask Mike to respond to this. Mike was a principal author on the comprehensive plan. So Mike, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Pulling Mike over into panelist. This is Mike D'Orazio, our Deputy Director. Give him a moment. Takes a few seconds for people to switch over, but we're getting in there. There.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks. Hi. So the question was about accessory dwelling units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or, so I mean, right now that's definitely something that we want to discuss during the update. I don't think there's any clear opinion one way or the other on it. I know that nationally, it's been a discussion on a lot of zoning code updates and throughout the country, as well as I believe Montgomery County recently looked at that, as well as Fairfax County. So it's definitely something that we want to discuss. I don't know if there's a clear opinion one way or the other on that. And I don't know.
Do you want to talk a little bit, Mike, about some of the ideas that did come up in the comp plan, like the village housing?
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that we really discussed was kind of aging in place is something that a lot of residents and citizens have concerns about. So one option that we see throughout the country, as well as regionally, Falls Church, I think recently had this type of housing type. It's called village housing, or cottage housing is sometimes what it's referred to. And essentially it's just a single family detached, or it could even be duplexes. They're smaller units on smaller lots. So they're usually single level or 1.5 levels. And they're more made for living in place for people that potentially are elderly or might not prefer a second floor or a bigger home.
Okay, so last question I have right now. So are ordinance changes and zoning changes separate processes?
The zoning, is the zoning ordinance separate from the subdivision ordinance?
I think maybe my assumption is like a rezoning. So a rezoning of something is separate than an ordinance change.
Right, so there's two types. There's map amendments and text amendments. So a text amendment is a change to what is written in Chapter 18 of the Town Code, which is our zoning code. A map amendment is changing a zone on the zoning map. So say someone owns a medical office building in what's zoned transitional, and they want to rezone to multifamily. They want to put in some townhouses. So that's a rezoning. And in that rezoning, when the Planning Commission and the Council review that, they're looking at not only how that property is used right now or how it's been used in the past, but what the comprehensive plan says about it. And in the comprehensive plan, there is what's called a future land use map or future land use plan, which is another map, and it shows categories of uses that are desired. This, remember, comp plan is long range, that are desired. And we do have a category called mixed use that's on our future land use plan. So a lot of, all the commercial areas are shown as mixed use, and some of the areas kind of off of Maple Avenue. So if an area was, the comp plan had an area designated as mixed use, and you wanted to change from medical office to townhomes, that would be consistent with the comprehensive plan, because mixed use means just that, a mix of uses. It could be commercial, and usually the residential means kind of more multifamily, not single family residential.
So where would suggestions for changes in the noise ordinance fall into?
The noise ordinance is, what is it, Chapter 10 of the Town Code. So it is not one of the chapters that is part of this process. We are looking at Chapter 17 and 18 of the Town Code. Chapter 17 is the subdivision ordinance, and Chapter 18 is the zoning ordinance. So if you want to see a change in the noise ordinance, I would suggest that's administered by the police department is responsible for enforcing the noise ordinance, but you could talk to the mayor or council or the town manager if you are interested in seeing changes there.
Great. So does anyone else have any other questions? Or I can, we have a few minutes left.
Are you going to show the website?
I'll say I was going to pull over to the website and show everyone where we, and now keep in mind, we just launched it. We're still tweaking a few things, and the email, special email will be ready momentarily. Okay, so let me share my screen. screen 3. So first, I just want to thank everyone for coming. So the next Lunch and Learn webinars we have are what is lot coverage? The idea is that the first and third Fridays will alternate residential and commercial. So we'll have November 6th for the first residential focus webinar. The staff will go over what is counted towards lot coverage, what is excluded, how to calculate it, and what to do if your property or a project that you want to do puts you near or over that limit. We'll also be discussing the ideas for potential changes and exceptions for outdoor living. And if you're a part of that presentation a few months ago, then this is following up from that. The second is what's your sign? Signs are everywhere, play an important role in how businesses attract customers. Planning and zoning staff will go over what the current ordinance allows and prohibits, and the process for applying for these signs. As we update our code, we want to hear from business community about what is important to you when it comes to signs. So here's the codecreatevienna.com is the website, and the email that we'll have is codecreate@viennava.gov. Excuse me, and I'm going to change my share. Get rid of this. Sorry, are you seeing the website now? Do I have the right?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so this is codecreatevienna.com. Again, this will be live momentarily with the email. It has our information. Once this video finishes downloading, we'll have a video page, so you'll be able to see that. You'll also, we have a specific page for these Lunch and Learns. So you can click, so if it's before the Lunch and Learn happens, when you click on it, it will take you to the registration for it. And then afterwards, it'll take you to the video, the slide to see the video, the audio, and the slides. And again, these are the next few that I just went over. And then I have December 4th as well on there. And as we create more, we don't have it thought out too far ahead because we want to kind of get a feeling of what the topics are as we're going through this process.
But can you go back to the main page and just talk about where information will be posted? So as we're working with the consultant right now to put together some surveys, some questionnaires that we're going to be coming to you with. And so, you know, if we're at a farmer's market or if we're at the shop and stroll or having 2-cent coffee, maybe Kelly Shomore will post that information if people are looking for it.
Yes, like I said, we're still want to have like a major window up here of what's the next thing. So we'll have kind of a ticker up front as what the next event is. We also have a calendar. It's a Google Calendar, but it shows you a little bit of everything from work sessions that have happened to the Lunch and Learn. So as we populate this, you'll see what we've got going on for the event for this process. We also have the document library. These are all the documents and background materials that were given to the consultants to kind of get an understanding of our town. And then we also have a join the conversation. So if you wanted to be alerted directly to your email of things that are happening, presentations we've got, things that are uploaded, you can give your name and information and we will email you as things come up. Not spam constantly, but only as major events come up, we'll reminder of, okay, we've got this meeting, this public hearing, the important milestones. Again, there's things that may be added and things that change. The frequently asked questions, as we have questions that come up, this will continue to grow. What happens to your comments and feedback we receive? Who do you contact? How long will the project take? What do we need to do? Why do we need to rewrite the code? How will changes to the zoning code affect you? So some of the things that we anticipate, things we've heard, but it's by no means an exhaustive list. Let me see, I got 2 Q&As that popped up. Let me see where we've got. All right, no, just some thanks and some kudos saying nicely done. Looking forward to future presentations. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we very much appreciate having everyone here. And I'll guarantee you these will be no longer than an hour. Our understanding of your time and appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and to answer our questions and give us questions that we can answer so we can all have a better understanding.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
thank you.
And I will end the webinar now. So thank you all very much.